The gay agenda strikes again. Hello and welcome to Larry Has Opinions. Today I'm going to talk about Giovanni's Room by James Baldwin, first published in 1956. I had really high expectations going into this because I had not seen any negative reviews whatsoever before now. And any channel that I followed that mentioned this book always rated it 5 stars. So I was really keen on giving this a go. And then I don't know what happened. So Giovanni's Room follows David, who's an American expatriate who's moved to France, to Paris, and then to the south of France, where he has a girlfriend, but he also meets Giovanni, who is this Italian guy who lives in France. And we find out very early on, so it's not really a spoiler, that Giovanni is about to be executed for something he's committed, presumably. And the book revolves around his history and reflections about his own sexuality and his impulse towards being attracted to men. It's not entirely clear whether he's just a closeted homosexual or he's bisexual. And to some extent, the same goes for Giovanni. It's not entirely clear which one it is. That didn't necessarily bother me. Perhaps in a way it's kind of refreshing because today we always feel the need to slap a label onto something, whereas clearly here the story goes beyond that, as if it doesn't really matter whether they're, homosexual or bisexual. So first of all, what did I like about this book? Well, I have to say it must have been incredibly brave for Baldwin as a Black author to publish this in the 50s. Well, I know that he struggled to have this published initially, and he moved to Europe himself to have this published, if I'm not mistaken. But he does that in a very interesting way. There's a lot to unpack in such a short book. There's a lot of themes that are explored, and the whole gay shame thing that can be so ingrained in you is clearly very well reflected in a lot of what we see in the story. The prose is also absolutely stunning, and this is all told in first person, which might not be everybody's taste, but I think it really gives a really vivid picture of what David is feeling at any point in time. The characters are pretty much all unlikable. There's no one really that you're going to think, oh yeah, this character is really great, someone I can root for or I can sympathize with. Especially the main characters, I find they're depicted quite well with a lot of nuance, and a lot of the backstories are also portrayed in the story. Some of the side characters are a bit on the shallow end for my liking, but also this is a very short book, so I'm not sure what more we could have necessarily expected. So what happened? Well, I don't necessarily mind following unlikable characters, so I don't think that's the reason why I didn't necessarily enjoy the story. I just found myself utterly bored for most of the book. I couldn't really connect with the story, with the themes, with the characters. If this had been any longer, I would have probably DNF'd it and just left it. But because it's so short, I just told myself, just keep going, push through, and I did. But I didn't really find any of the story particularly gripping. It was overly dramatic and boring at the same time, which is a very unusual combination for me. I'm not sure why that necessarily was. I wonder if there's necessarily something that is very American about the story, and whether it perhaps resonates a lot more with an American audience, perhaps. There's a lot of the usual cliche about France and Italy, which I find very tiresome, and I can't say that that's the reason why I didn't like the book, but that didn't really help with my enjoyment of the book either. So to exemplify this point, I'm just gonna read this quote from Giovanni, and I'm gonna do it in the accent that is supposed to be sub-vocalized in. Yes, I wanted to stay there forever and eat much spaghetti and drink much wine and make many babies and grow fat. Yes! I had to go look for my eyes because they had rolled all the way back up there. So again, that's not necessarily the reason why I didn't like the book, but that, as I said, really fun, it didn't help. Also, my edition had a lot of bad French, and that annoyed me even further. I managed to find a different edition this morning, and it looked like it was only my own edition that had the bad French, so I can't really fault the book for that. But again, while I was reading it, that was annoying me even further. The main reason why I didn't enjoy it, as I said, is that I found it boring and overly dramatic at the same time. I'm not going to spoil anything for you, but as I said, it's clear from the start that Giovanni is being executed, so clearly he's done something. Whereas I think self-harm is more likely to be the product of gay shame, really, from what I've seen. Again, Baldwin had his story to tell, not my story to tell, but again, I didn't necessarily felt that connection that I think could have been depicted better, in my opinion. I've also had a look at the reviews on Goodreads, and as I said, most of them are absolutely glowing. But then I went and filtered by language, and it seemed to me that just by looking at Italian and French reviews, they were a lot more mixed than the English ones were. So again, I wonder if maybe it's my own background that maybe didn't allow me to connect with the story fully. So I don't necessarily want to dissuade anyone from reading this, given that most people seem to enjoy it, but it didn't really work for me, especially given the high expectations that I had. So for this reason, my rating for the book is only 6 out of 10. If you really disagree with me and want to let me know, just join our Discord, the link is down below, and tell me what you think. I hope you guys liked this video. Please give me a thumbs up, and I'll see you the next time.